Hello everyone and welcome to the round 23 trade targets and burning questions, although I think I need to preface with trade targets if you have trades left. We're coming to the pointy end of the season. Anyone who's in head-to-head prelims, good luck to you all. You're going to have to use your trades wisely if you have any left. Maybe look for some pods as well. So I think because of the lack of, there wasn't that much teamless stuff I think out of today, nor are there many trade questions, just given that most people have very low trades and they're just either trying to hold on or they're just doing, a couple of moves. The way that I'm going to do the stream, I'm going to structure it a little bit differently. I've got less pre-planned stuff that I want to talk about. There's a few questions I've pulled off Twitter that I thought might be worthwhile to discuss, but I think what I'll do is we'll see how long that takes, and then after that I'll just do straight Q&A, because I know people might have head-to-head questions, they might have some more specific team questions. I thought there might just be more value in just doing more questions, I think, from you guys specifically, than say more general broad topics. So that's kind of how I'm looking at doing this stream today. So thank you to Simon, who's in the chat, and Bailey, Jason, Mitchell, hello to you, and Rio, and Tyler. Thanks all for joining me. Yeah, I imagine it's going to be a little bit quieter than what we normally have, but as we're kind of coming to the back end of the season. So I'll quickly give you an update in terms of team and ranking. So I finished up on 1149 last week, bit of a down week. This was probably the first week where not owning Latrell really did hurt me, where previous weeks I'd kind of gotten green arrows, but not owning Latrell this week, and no one else really was able to go big for me. So a bit of a slip, so down 260 spots. Now we're on, what am I ranking at? 2087. I don't know how many points away I am from top 1,000, but that's still the aim. But look, I've got one trade left. I did a stupid in hindsight, Cleary out for Cherry Evans, who flopped massively. So yeah, not happy with bringing in Cherry Evans last week. Thought he was going to go huge against the Titans and did absolutely nothing. And his team got smashed as well. So yeah, not much doing there with that specific trade. Quick update on the group league as well. So shout out to Matt from Vitamin D, who scored 1,362 last week to top score, round 22. Quick shout out as well to Alex from the Bearded Clams. He's coming in 5th. Had a really good week again with 1236. I'm not sure how far off the top place he is. From memory, top place is in quite a decent position, points ahead. But Alex, you're in position for a tracksuit. So keep pushing hard and hopefully you lock up the top 11, top 10, top 11, whatever it is. But obviously push as high as you can for number 1 as well. And shout out to Toby, who I know is a very good supporter of the channel. Thank you, Toby. He's doing really well too. Had a bit of a down week. I think he captained Cherry Evans, which is brutal. I mean, he scored 1158 with that. So you can imagine if he'd done a different captain, he would have done much better than that. But look, still in 15th, you would take that if at the beginning of the season. And Taylor, Shane, Rob, Philip, Curtis, James, Vaughan, and Guy, all familiar names there who are sitting pretty well in the top 200 there. And quick shout out again to the members. Thanks all for supporting the channel as well to date, and you can use these funny little emojis as well. Alright, so I thought we'll get into some pre-planned stuff. So I can see a few questions coming in, which is great. I just want to maybe go through couple of questions I got off Twitter first that might maybe potentially answer some questions, and then we'll do more specific straight Q&A after that. So just bear with me. We'll definitely get to your questions and as many of them as we can. So there was actually 2 or 3 questions on Twitter about pods and high ceiling pods. So I've got one question from Bluffmaster29. He says he needs one last pod for his head-to-head semi-final, thinking Cotter or Fafita. Matthew at Broomer23 said best higher upside pods for this round. Someone else in the next section also asked about Raiders pods because Raiders have a good run home. So I thought it'd be interesting, it might be useful for people who are overall trying to push up rankings, or maybe head-to-head players who are looking for pods to win their head-to-head game this week. So we've just got the last 3 games for every team. And in terms of trying to identify, high ceiling pods, what I've got below me, this is from NRL SuperCoach Stats, fantastic website. So they actually keep a track of the teams that concede the most over 100 plus point scores for the SuperCoach. So basically it will tell you, this is the team to target if you want guys to go big. And there's a lot of familiar names there. You've got the Knights, who are in a bit of a shambles again. They've got Bradman, Best and Tuala, I think, out this week. Pong has gone for the rest of the season. That's been confirmed. You've got the Warriors, you've got Dragons, you've got Tigers, you've got Titans in there. So a lot of the familiar names, but there are some interesting other names to look at. You've got the Eels there. You've got Roosters actually have 11, although Roosters we know a lot better, more recent form. But funnily enough, you look at teams like the Bulldogs, only 7 times they've actually conceded over 100 points. So yes, we know the Bulldogs have improved, but you'd still say it's a relatively easy matchup. But it's not one you actually look at and say, oh, I think this guy can actually go like 100 plus. You can't say with as much confidence maybe as other matchups, for example. Even Manly, for example, have conceded more 100 plus point games than the Bulldogs. And you'd probably say Manly, based on current form, are worse off than the Bulldogs. So just wanted to highlight that. A lot of familiar names in terms of teams to target, but there are some other teams there as well. So now that you've kind of got that in mind, you can kind of look at the draw and say, okay, we kind of have an idea of which teams actually have the best runs. Funnily enough, I mentioned this the past couple of weeks, but a lot of the lower teams have got the better runs home and not so much the top teams. They all kind of play each other. So I've highlighted some player names here of just some teams that I think, both in answer to Bruma's questions about particularly in this week, but also just for the rest of the season. So I think the one best team is probably the Raiders. Raiders have got a great run home. You've got Knights who concede the most 100 plus point games. Then you've got Manly who are not in good form. And then you've got the Tigers. So Raiders have a really good run home. Raiders don't really necessarily have a lot of backs that you can maybe go for. But in the forwards, if people are looking at moving on any center wing via duels or a 2RF, I don't mind going with Raiders players. Hudson Young I've got is probably the number one choice. Adam Elliott I was a little bit more keen on last week, but for some reason he only played like 48 minutes, so his minutes were kind of getting a bit weird, whereas Hudson Young is pretty much locked into 80 minutes. He does have a ceiling. He has gone big. I think he's got at least 200 plus point games this season. I'll just double check that fact before I start talking absolute rubbish. He has got 200 plus point games so far this year. He's also got like an 87. He's got an 80. He's got like a 77. So he's got somewhat of a ceiling. So he's definitely someone I think you can target if you are looking for pods this week. I don't mind going for Hudson Young. 607k is a bit expensive, but hopefully you've got some money in the bank to fly around with, if you've got Cleary money that you're still playing with. So he's definitely one. I know people have actually asked as well about selling Cherry Evans. I get it. You'd be really, really disappointed with that performance last week. I've not normally been too keen on Fogarty. I feel like he does lack a bit of a ceiling. He has got 100 plus point game though so far this year. Does have the good draw, does have the goal kicking as well. So definitely, if you're looking just straight pod, Fogarty is another option. Josh Papali'i I've got here, but I'm less keen on him now that Tarpany has been named again. I just think that that's going to limit the impact of Papali'i. I haven't added Tarpany's name to here because he's not really necessarily a pod. He's pretty well owned. But I do like the Raiders as a team to target for pods, and I like Hudson Young, if anyone's looking for a second or a forward pod. Another team, so Mitchell has just said in the chat as well, Titans. Titans have got a really good run home. So I think there's a couple of interesting options here. So Fafita is obviously the more popular one. So I think anyone who's got Fafita, you're probably looking to hold. There's a question there from Bluffmaster, which is asking Cotter or Fafita. Now, I think Cotter is your safe one. He scored about 71 points last week in about 55, 57 minutes. I still think I would lean with Fafita, Bluffmaster. Just looking at that draw and the ability to go high. Titans actually looked quite good last week. I know he's frustrating, but I feel like Fafita's poor game is 50. Cotter is going to be between 60 and 70, but Fafita probably is going to get that. He's got that better chance of like 100 plus, right? So for me, Fafita I would go for sure over Cotter. And a couple of other pods there if you want to look at the Titans. So Brimson scored 111 last week. Not last season, but the season before. He had a really good end to the season too. So look, if you're looking for pods, I think he's a halfback and 5'8" listed player. I'm not 100% sure, but he's 540k. So if you've got duels of say via Ezra Mam and you're looking maybe you're looking to sell Ezra Mam this week, don't mind going Brimson. The last 2 games he's got 111 and 67. So pretty good scores there. So coming into a great run of games, Dragons, Newcastle and New Zealand, they're probably the top 3 teams in terms of conceding over 100 points. So look, again, another pod that you can consider. Just another team I wanted to talk about. So we've got Roosters. This is more specific to Bruma's questions about specifically this week, where you've got the Tigers. So it's a great matchup. So Sammy Walker, I know a few people might be looking at halfbacks. Don't mind him. I think I've seen a few people ask, I think Moses or Sam Walker. I think I might have seen that question actually in the chat a little bit earlier. Yeah, so this is from Albert. He said Moses or Sam Walker this week. 100% Sam Walker this week. I think, yes, the matchup looks on paper good for the Eels, but remember the Bulldogs beat the Eels last time out. So I do prefer the Roosters matchup. So Sam Walker's goal kicking too. So 100% would be going with Sam Walker this week over, say, like a Mitchell Moses in that 50-50. Between him and, say, Fogarty, it's, Sam Walker's probably still the better option, but you might just be playing a little bit more on the draw if you go for someone like Fogarty instead. So that's another guy I wanted to call out from the Roosters. You can obviously go for someone like a Daniel Tupou on the wing. Another guy is probably going to go big this week. Joseph Suali'i, he's not a massive pod, but look, again, don't neglect him. And he's not a pod, but Manu, God, I hope you guys own Manu this week, because I've just got a feeling he's gonna have a good week this week. We'll talk about captaincy and vice captaincy later, but yeah, he definitely features there too. A couple of other teams I wanted to call out. Sorry, I shouldn't have put Adokar and Jeremy Marshall-King's name there. Where they need to be is actually in the Bulldogs part. Now, realistically, I don't actually think, I'm actually going to take them off the list because I don't think the Bulldogs run home is fantastic. So I'll take them off there. Cobbo is one for like round 25 and 24. Eels have a tendency to concede a lot of points to right wingers. And with Tamari Martin back, I do think that helps Cobbo. So he's someone to maybe take a punt on, but this week you can definitely avoid it. Someone's mentioned Curran in the chat. Yeah, Curran is solid. I can't remember team list, but I know last week he was benched. I can't remember if he was actually named to start come game day. So I might just have to double check that from last week. He's been named on the bench again. It's just, that's the thing. It's like, it's hard to kind of take a punt on someone who's benched. Just like the minutes you're just not as certain with. Yeah, look, he scored 61 points last week in 46 minutes, which is very, very solid. But again, I think if you're trying to look at the category of ceiling guys, he's probably just not quite in that category. Bailey makes a good point here about Fafita. Did nothing other than that line break try. Yes, that's why he's frustrating, because I think he had 30 in base, but he's got that ability to do those kind of plays. So if he does like two of those, say he gets a double one week, if you're versing the Dragons, Knights and Warriors, you can't tell me that, Fafita can't get a double in one of those games. And if he gets a double, he's looking at 100 plus. So in the context of ceiling guys, not necessarily a pod, but, could be someone to go for. But yeah, I can see the frustration, obviously, with Fafita. Dragons were another team I wanted to call out as well. So Titans and Tigers the next 2 weeks is pretty good. And I do think the Broncos matchup is actually okay as well. Broncos, look at that, they've 10 games they've conceded, or 10 times, sorry, they've conceded over 100 plus points this year. So, someone like a Lomax, someone was asking me on Twitter, who should I trade Lomax for? And I said, what do you mean trading Lomax? I mean, he's got the Titans and the Tigers this week, and he's goal kicking. He's got a ceiling on him because he's got the goal kicking. You can call it gambler's fallacy, but I think he's due a try as well. So I don't mind even going for like a Lomax, to be honest. Just take a punt on it. Because I think the next three are pretty good for him too. So he's someone to consider. It's a bit points chasing, but, Amon scored a hat-trick last week, 141. He's got a ceiling on him, maybe him. And then you got Ben Hunt, but I think Lomax is my preference there just because of the goal kicking. So yeah, that's another team that you can look at. And then again, this week specifically, Cowboys with the Warriors, I think it's a great matchup. So Tom Dearden, Murray Taulagi, a couple of lower owned guys. Dearden actually has done quite well recently in the halfback spot, so I don't mind him for specifically this week. The next two are tough, but if you've got depth and you can maybe bench him for those, then you can take a punt on it this week. So those are probably a few guys I wanted to mention. Oh, sorry, and the Sharks. I should talk about the Sharks as well, because they're probably the best team with the best draw for the run home. So you've got quite a few options that you can look at here. So Manly, that game doesn't really concern you, I think, on paper anymore. Bulldogs is a decent matchup, and then the Knights in rounds 25 is fantastic. So someone like a Jesse Ramian, I think he scored 86 last week. Good pod in the centre wing. Connor Tracy again on the wing too. Brett Nakora, if you're looking for a pod in your second row forward, although I do prefer Hudson Young to Nakora. Now the front row forwards, if anyone is looking for a front row forward pod, Toby Rudolph's been injured. And I really noticed it last week that the Sharks were just feeding the ball to their middles in Royce Hunt and Hamlin Ueli. They're both like super cheap, like 270k. So if you're really strapped for cash and you're just looking for a pod in your, like if you're looking for a downgrade in your front row forward, I don't mind going with like a Hamlin Ueli. I think he's been named to start. And I just saw that they were using their middles quite a lot close to the line. Blake Brayley tends to do that. And I, like, as a Hines captain last week, I was getting quite frustrated where Hines wasn't getting the ball because Brayley kept passing it to his props. But maybe you just take the benefit of the front row forwards. So a couple of other, they're probably very, very, very low owned. I'll actually do a quick check. I'll check it later. Sorry, on their ownerships, but I imagine that they're quite low owned. So there's a few pods there. Hopefully that answered your question, Bruma, and also Bluffmaster, and anyone else who's looking at pods. So D Perry's actually asked, does he trade Barnett for Brayley, Robson, or Hudson Young? Again, kind of depends. It sounds like you've got flexibility. I think Hudson Young's probably got the best draw there. Best matchup this week too. So I think Hudson Young probably, is pretty safe for 80 minutes. So yeah, I don't mind Hudson Young. He's definitely got a ceiling on him. Blake Brayley's pretty solid, and as is Reece Robson. They probably haven't got quite a ceiling as Hudson. That's probably all I'll say on that one. All right, we'll leave that part there. We'll just get to a couple of other questions I got from Twitter as well, and then we'll just get into a captaincy, vice captaincy discussion, and we'll just get to questions too. So in terms of other questions, so I saw Davey K is in the chat. He says, "Hey Aman, yay!" Well, Davey, I think this is you as well, with your question. So you said you've got 5 trays left, which is honestly, that's just bragging. I shouldn't have even shown your question here because I think that's rude just to have 5 trays left instead of the 1 or 0 like the majority of us here. So he said, "Can you trade out Cherry Evans?" Look, I think with 5 trades you can very comfortably trade out Cherry Evans. Didn't look good. Manly didn't look good. If you're looking for a halfback, Fogarty for the next 3 weeks, Sam Walker for sure for this week, Dearden this week too. I think you've got options. So I don't know if you're a head-to-head player, but yeah, I do like chasing the upside and just getting rid of Cherry Evans. To be honest, I don't see where the biggest score is going to come from. Now you've said Toto to Raymond or Holmes. I'll quickly actually just circle back here. I don't think Toto's a trade out. Just when you've got the Warriors next week, I think that's going to be a great matchup for Toto to do well in. So I know the temptation's there to sell because he has been underperforming, but I think just with Warriors next week, I think you ideally would want to hold Toto. So I wouldn't advise trading him out. In terms of if you can maybe trade out another centre wing for like Raymond or Val Holmes. Again, Holmes is the higher owned guy. Raymond's got the better draw and is more of a pod and is a lot cheaper as well. So I think it kind of comes down to, are you looking for the pod? If so, I'd say go for Raymond. And your last question, so you had kind of a 3-part question, was actually, is it time to move on from Mam and bring in Drinkwater? Now, yeah, I think it's fine to move off Ezra Mam now. Like Storm and Eels the next couple of weeks is hard. And then especially Drinkwater this week, I think will do very, very well this week. I think Simon asked earlier in the stream, should he sell Drinkwater? Now, my feeling is there's no way I'd want to sell Drinkwater. If anything, he's a buy if you're going to get it, because Warriors this week is great. Even last week against the Roosters, he didn't do much, and he still ended up on 48, which is not bad. So, yeah, I think Mam to Drinkwater, especially Dave when you've got 5 trades, I think you can afford to do that. I do like that move as well. So, this is the benefits of having 5 trades left. Next question was from Smith C. So I probably won't go into his question so much just because it was kind of aligned to the whole Raiders discussion about pods. But he makes a good point there. Raiders should do well this week. Tarpany's back, which I think is big for them too. High upside guys. Yeah, so we kind of spoken about that already. And you've got 3 trades left. So I think you're in a position where you can also move to someone like a Hudson Young. Last question was from Charlie. He said Hughes to Moses. He still has 2 trades left. Now, I don't necessarily think I'd actually move to Moses this week. Bulldogs, I don't think is as easy as what we think it is on paper. And then Broncos and Storm are not fantastic. Whereas if you have someone like a Jerome Hughes, I think Broncos actually is a good matchup for Storm. They seem to always do well at Suncorp. Then you've got Roosters, which is hard. But then you've got Eels. And so I think if I look at that draw on paper, I'd probably say that to be fair, the Eels draw is probably slightly better. But I think in terms of the actual matchup, I think Storm will do better against the Broncos than someone like Moses. So I'd probably just keep Jerome Hughes. It does feel a bit sideways. Okay, that's probably all those Twitter questions done. I'll quickly just get into the top 10 trade ins and outs, and then we'll probably just move to a proper Q&A as well. So a lot of the trade outs make sense. I'll say that broadly. So I think it was someone asked earlier in the stream. It was sorry, I can't find your name, sorry, but your question was about Talakai. How long is he out for? Now, I haven't heard much about how long he's going to be out for. To be honest, I think it's fine to sell. Last week, I think it was easy to sell because he was out. Now, the draw is still good, but look, Talakai's actually been he's been very, very disappointing since everyone bought him, myself included, after that massive game against Manly. So even though he's got the good draw, to be honest, he's had a good draw for other games and he hasn't really delivered. So look, Talakai's fine to sell. And we went through quite a few different centre wing options there. I don't mind going straight to his teammate in Ramian. You've got options like Connor Tracy too, Murray Talangi for a real pod this week as well. So yeah, few players there that you can consider. And similar with Taylor May. The only thing with Taylor May that I will say, there's a rhyme for you, is Warriors next week. And originally his injury was supposed to be, I think, 2 to 4 weeks. So if he's already named on the extended reserves this week, which he has been, then it looks like he's close to return next week. And I think if he's fit and playing next week against the Warriors, I'm happy to roll him out. So I think Taylor May, I can understand people selling, that's fine. But if you've got depth to cover, I think there is value still in holding him for next week as well. Karaz, I do think this matchup against Parramatta is actually not that bad. So I don't think he needs to be a massively sold player, but I can kind of get it. Similar argument with Dungo about the Warriors. I won't go into him. Tarpany, I'm going to guess that's old. He's named to play. I guess the only thing with Tarpany is that he plays on Sunday in the last game, and he's not completely nailed to play because of the injury. So hopefully you've got depth to cover. But I'd imagine if he's been named to play, hopefully he will suit up. And so I probably don't think I'd be trading him out then at that point. Cherry Evans, I think, yeah, sell if you've got the trades too. I've only got one trade left, so I don't think I'm necessarily going to. I'll keep Cherry Evans for some depth. Now, Tamalolo, I think a lot of people are selling. It does feel a bit luxury. I'm not sure who they may be selling for. He definitely has been impacted with Cotter coming back, so I get it. But he's probably just someone I think if you could, I'd just avoid selling and just kind of keep on your bench. Because even if you're upgrading to someone like Tarpany, I don't think Tarpany is going to be as good as what he has been so far. Just physio always talks about it with these rib injuries that they're very painful. And there has been like a definite trend in SuperCoach scores dropping after people get rib cartilage injuries. That's all I'll say. Now Tarpany probably is going to drop from 85 to 70 probably, so still a good option to be fair. So look, I don't hate it, but I think I'm going to be running the rest of the season without Tarpany, which is not fun. Any other guys there? Saab, yeah, unfortunately Saab's got an ACL, so he's gone for 6 to 9 months. Cleary's makes sense. Now Lomax, we kind of spoke about. I don't know why people are trading out Lomax. You've got the Titans and the Tigers the next 2 weeks. Just hold him. He's been poor, yes, but these are the games that you want someone like a Lomax as a pod. So hold Lomax. That's all I'll say. Josh is asking in the chat, sell Holmes. Now, no way I'd be selling Val Holmes this week when he's got the Warriors. I will not entertain that thought. And look, yes, he's been a bit poor, but he's got goal kicking, so he's pretty safe. There's no way I'd be selling Val Holmes this week when he's got the Warriors game this week. Now, in terms of the buys, there's lots of Rabbitohs players featuring here. So you've got Murray, we went into a long discussion about Cam Murray last week. I don't think I need to repeat myself. Hands down the best second row forward. One player is actually not in this top 10 is Olukwatu. So that fat guy is actually asking, is Olukwatu a sell? He's been doing nothing for me, but I'm wanting to get some dollars for Latrell. Is Latrell a buy now? That's the question. To be fair, he's now got Penrith, Cowboys, Roosters. I think that's his draw. I still think he's a buy. Because, look, he's just getting it done against anyone, to be honest. So for me, I don't see why you can't buy Latrell, to be honest. I think he's just in that kind of form where you're just like, he touches the ball twice and he gets 80, 90 points. He's just pooping out points, to be honest. So look, I think if you've got trades, that fat guy, I don't mind selling Olukwatu, who's been a bit poor. Manly have been poor. You sell him, raise funds and get Latrell. To be honest, I don't hate that, to be honest. And Josh, just what you're saying about, yes, after the Warriors, you've got South and Penrith. Fair. But he's got the Warriors this week, so there's no way I'd be selling him this week. That's all I'll say. Doesn't matter who he's got afterwards. You keep him at least for this week. You can think about selling him next week, but keep him this week. John, there's no hate for Warriors. Definitely not. No one's hating the Warriors. We love the Warriors and what they did for us in terms of the whole COVID period. Just for SuperCoach, they concede points. That's all we're saying. they were good last week, but they were playing at home last week too. They're playing away this week, and Cowboys playing at home. So I think that's going to help out the Cowboys too. I don't know why you would sell Holmes this week. That's all I'm saying. Just Warriors is a good matchup. Any other buys there? Yeah, Cotter, kind of spoke about it a little bit earlier. Yeah, I think I probably still would prefer like a Fafita. I know that sounds crazy. Although I don't know if you can buy a Fafita over Cotter. I'm all over the place on the Cotter or Fafita decision. Cotter's probably a safe option, to be honest, but I guess it depends. Are you chasing a ceiling? Then stick with Fafita. I like Suaalii this week. Honestly, AJ, I know he's got a tough run, but the way that the Rabbitohs are playing, he's literally scoring like 2 tries a game for fun. So look, I don't hate it either. I may even go there if, say, for example, because I don't own the Trell, I may use my last trade to get him in, just to like hedge myself, because I'm getting killed by not owning. I don't own any Rabbitohs actually, which is insane when I think about it. Garrick, yes, is fine. It's a tough matchup this week, but he's been a pretty solid option. Munster, I think Munster will do well this week against the Broncos. He's been named at 5'8", which kind of sucks because we know that at fullback he's awesome. But I think with Hughes coming back, I suspect that Munster will probably just stay in the halves. Latrell, we kind of spoke about him. Yeah, Joey Manu this week. I think if you can get to Manu somehow this week, just do it, because he's been a bit quiet the last 2 weeks, but against the Tigers, we could be looking at a 110, 120, I think. Definitely a good chance of a ceiling there. And Val Holmes is actually in the top 10 buys. So yeah, I think that I agree with that. I don't think he's a sell. Alright, that's kind of all I have for plan stuff. I'll get into captaincy and vice captaincy stuff here. So I can see Jay Barlow, sorry, I'm not sure I pronounced your first name, apologies. Captaincy, yep, Sandy's asking, captaincy is question of the week. It is a slightly tougher week, I think, for captaincies, for sure. So I think in terms of the best matchups, to me, the best matchups for your top teams are the Cowboys and then the Roosters. So you've got the Warriors at home for the Cowboys, and then you've got the West Tigers at home, at SCG as well for the Roosters. SCG, somewhere that Teddy usually does well, although last week was a little bit underperforming, but tough matchup. So I think in terms of how I would approach VC and Cs this week, like for my own team personally, ideally what I would do is vice captain Drinkwater and captain Tedesco, but I've got Drinkwater and Tedesco in my fullback, so I can't do that. So I'm going to have to try to do something different. But I think if you've got ability to vice captain a Cowboys player like a Val Holmes or a Drinkwater, and then I think captaincy into Teddy, that's probably how I would lean this week. A couple of people asking between Teddy or Manu captain. I still think Tedesco, just because to be fair, Manu has been more roaming in the last few weeks compared to he's not been just stuck on the right hand side. I just think Teddy's going to be a more safe option of getting you the bigger score. Like I think Manu can get there, but he'll kind of need more to go his way. That's kind of how I feel. Like I feel like I feel like it's a Teddy game. That makes no sense, does it? But I feel like it's a Tedesco game. His old club, SCG, Saturday evening. I don't know why I'm getting Teddy vibes. I'm getting Teddy vibes for this week. So that's who I'd probably lean. Now, if we actually look at the Tigers, so I've got in the table below me the ranking of how they concede points to different positions. So they are 7th for fullbacks, and they are 6th for centre wing. So honestly, it doesn't really help your decision there. They're pretty much equal. I think it just means that both Teddy and Manu will do well this week. I just think with the fullback, they're typically going to be more involved across the field than, say, Manu. So for me, I'd probably still lean Tedesco as captain over Joey Manu, but it's a close one. Now, Jai's asking Manu or Dillbag's captaincy. I think if that's your decision, I would say Manu. I haven't actually included any Eels players here. I think part of that is thinking about how the Bulldogs played against them last time. Like, I don't think it's a super easy matchup for the Eels. And I think Dillbags, yes, he's a very good option. I just think for Dylan Brown, he's a very, very safe 65 to 70 a week, which is, look, if that's what you're after for your captain, just kind of lock that in. I see no harm in that. But I think if you're chasing a ceiling, I think Manu's got a better chance of hitting 100 plus than, say, Dillbags this week. So I'd probably say Manu captain over him. Now, if you're a Latrell owner, honestly, this is a tough one because people will have Latrell and Tedesco. So Sandy's saying you hate that you can't VC Latrell and Captain Tedesco. That's fair enough. So I still think I would just try to I would probably still Captain Tedesco. And I think you just have to leave Latrell out. If you've got the other alternate combo that you could do is probably VC Latrell, because I think Latrell's fine to vice captain this week. I know it's in Panthers, but still he's in good form. So you could do maybe your vice captain Latrell and then captain Hines. Hines is really safe. He's like a safe 80, 85 a week. I think it's a good matchup as well, Manly. So I think if you're I still prefer going with Captain Tedesco just on matchup. But if you feel like you want to have something on Latrell like a VC, then you probably, I think in my opinion, just go Hines as a safe option because he's pretty safe, to be honest. So that's probably the alternate combination I would go for. But I still think I'd prefer just about Teddy captain over Nico. Because I think Teddy will equally be safe for like 70 to 80 points this week too. Munster's an option as well against the Broncos. You know, if you're looking at VC Munster, maybe Captain Tedesco. That's actually, I think, I don't have that at the moment. I think what I've got on my team at the moment, I've actually got VC Hines because he plays 5:30 on Saturday. And then I think I've got Teddy captain on the 7:30. So it's a very, very short turnaround between those two. And I haven't worked out with my team if it actually works out in terms of the loophole and things. But that's how I'm thinking about it at the moment. A couple of questions I think on Latrell while we're speaking about captaincy and Latrell. Obviously there was this report that he was had ice on his groin after training. From what I've read, it's probably not super reliable, but it seemed as though it was just more of a precaution. I think it's also because they had a short turnaround as well. So I would be surprised if he misses this week. My feeling is he's going to play, like he's been named as well. Look, if he's a late out, I think you probably just have to cover him with Teddy at that point in time if you've got Teddy in your other fullback spot. Now, look, someone did ask me on Twitter as well, could you trade Latrell if you're a head-to-head player? Obviously, if he's out this week and you've got the trades to maybe get him back in, it's fine to sell him, to be honest, because you're playing with a lot of money at that point, 825k. So, yeah. I'm just throwing it out there. Someone did ask me that, so I think it's definitely an option if you've got the trades to burn and you're maybe more head-to-head focused. But I think for majority of people, you're not going to be doing those kind of things as well. All right, that's it for the pre-plan stuff. As I said, didn't really want to go through too much because I think there's just less kind of trade-specific stuff to go through. I might just quickly show you my team. To be honest, though, haven't really given much thought in terms of trades. I've got the one trade left. I've got 200k in the bank. What I did think about doing was maybe taking out Taylor May, but it's very, very painful. If I want to take out Taylor May, and my thinking was maybe like Val Holmes, because it's Cowboys matchup, I'm $1,100 short. So I can't do that move, which is very annoying. So that's off the table. So I was thinking, okay, could I do like Taylor May out for like a Ramian? I might do that. Or what I probably will do is just save the trade, I think. Just save it, because I think the rest of my team is still okay. Like Doolin Brown, Drinkwater, I'm happy to play them. I'll play Olukwatu and then I'll play McInnes. I could even take out Olukwatu, to be honest, just because he has been underwhelming, but I am also thinking Max King. I kind of want to hold fire on that trade because I feel like I might need to take out Max King at some point, because Luke Thompson has been named on the extended reserves for the Bulldogs. So he potentially could be a minutes issue, and I'm already running very, very thin on my front row forward. If he somehow gets relegated to the bench, I'll probably have to burn a trade because I just don't think my front row forward can handle that. I saw someone in the chat saying do Isaac Thungo out for Val Holmes, also an option. But then again, I'm probably creating a bit of a benching headache for myself. If I bring in Val Holmes, then I'm probably benching. To be fair, I'm benching Olukwatu against the Sharks, but it's actually that's not a bad idea, to be honest. But he does have the Warriors next week, so I'll give that some thought, Finn. It's not a bad idea if that's like I can trade him out for Val Holmes as well. Ideally, it'd be nice to take out Taylor May instead, though, just because he's injured. So yeah, to be honest, not completely sold on what I'll do with my team at the moment. But I've got captaincy on Teddy and vice captain on Hines. And so Sandy's saying bring in AJ. I can't afford Alex. Well, I can't afford Alex Johnston via TaylorMade. I can take him out. I can take out Isaac Thongo for Johnston. I could do that. I mean, maybe I should just get Latrell. Dylan Brown out for Latrell. Maybe we'll see. I think I've missed Latrell. It's just I just have to have my fingers crossed that these tougher opposition can maybe keep him more in check, but I haven't got my hopes up very high because he's just been absolutely killing it. Okay, what I'll do now, we've gone for about 36 minutes. We'll do maybe 10-15 minutes of questions because I know there was a few questions coming in, and we'll end the stream there. We'll do it a little bit quicker today. I think there's just less stuff to talk about. So this question did come from Albert, which was saying thoughts on Xavier Savage about buying him. My issue with Savage, yes, the draw is good. The problem is that he takes up a fullback spot. Like, you can only get him at fullback, which I think is a little bit limiting. Because I think ideally I would have Latrell, Teddy, Drinkwater, even guys like Val Holmes at fullback, maybe even a Garrick at fullback. I all think that they're better options than him. And so for me, I don't want to be bringing in someone like Savage and then he's kind of locked into that spot. I mean, I get it because it's the good draw. But he's had one game over 90 since he's been starting at fullback. I've just got the scores up. So he scored 96 against the Roosters. But apart from that, 65, 66, 62, 28, 57, 52, 60. I just don't think he's quite the Supercoach option, I guess. He's not like a Teddy, Latrell, Drinkwater type, in my opinion. So not too keen on Savage. All right. Oluquatu or Campbell Graham last reserve. Is that Campbell Graham, Sam? Yeah, he's been named to play this week. To be honest, I'd play Campbell Graham because him and Oluquatu have about the same base. But I do think that Campbell Graham's probably got the upside. Oluquatu's just, I don't know, Manly just not looking good, are they? I mean, I could even take an Oluquatu for Cam Murray. I could even do that, to be honest. Maybe I'll think about that as well. Jason saying, hi man, Oluquatu or Thongo out for Lane. Okay, so we didn't really talk about Sean Lane this week. Sean Lane has been killing it. I do think I would take out Oluquatu instead of Thongo. I just have more faith in Penrith. And I'm thinking about that Warriors matchup in round 24 as well. So if you're looking to take out one of those two for Lane, I'd probably take out Oluquatu, Jason. Josh is saying Matt Burton to Damien Cook. Damien Cook has been he's been killing it. I really should, I need to have a think about him for next season because since Wayne Bennett has not been at the Rabbitohs, Cook's been having that license to run again. Yeah, a 5-round average of 81, a 3-round average of 87. He has been killing it. Now, Matt Burton to him. Would I do Matt Burton? Now, I don't think it's a bad matchup for Burton. I know the last 2 weeks have been underwhelming. Sharks is tough. Manly is good. I don't know. I still feel like Burton I would like to keep. I think he's generally a decent option still. So I think I'd say no to that move, Josh. Thoughts on Ben Hunt for the run home? Yeah, kind of briefly mentioned him with the Dragons. My issue with Ben Hunt is that if he doesn't get those attacking stats, he's got no base. So for me, I just feel a little bit less confident with him. He's an option, but he hasn't gone over 100 at all this year. Which, look, that could change. But he doesn't really have the ceiling, and the inconsistency worries me. If I look at some scores from early this year. So he started the season pretty well. So he had 45, 75, 62, 80. But then after the 80, he had 9. Then he had 79 again. I don't know if my heart can just take that kind of inconsistency. Then you've got 60, 40. Then he had 4. Literally scored 4 points. 7 points in base. He does no tackling by the look of it. And then he goes from 4 to 94. Honestly, the volatility just, I don't know if my poor heart could handle that kind of thing. So, and I don't think he's got enough of the ceiling to justify it. So, I'm personally not a massive fan of Ben Hunt. I'd prefer a Dearden, who's been pretty solid. I'd prefer Sam Walker. I'd even prefer Fogarty, to be honest. At least Fogarty's goal kicking as well. That's the thing with him. Ben Hunt doesn't have the goal kicking. Trade Kickout or Lolo for Lane or Kolomatangi. I would prefer Sean Lane. I've been very happy owning Sean Lane since I got him, I think, in round 17 for the buy coverage. So for me, yeah, Sean Lane I'd prefer over Kolomatangi. Better draw as well than Kolomatangi. In terms of who to trade out, I'd probably trade out Tamalolo. Kickout, I think, still next week against Warriors could be a good matchup for him. So I think that's kind of a game where, head-to-head final, maybe chasing overall. He could be a pod who does really well for you, whereas I don't think Lolo's quite going to have that ceiling. So for me, probably Lolo for Lane. Finn says, Max King for Tarpany, Haas or Tino. King going to be reverted to the bench. Yeah, I am thinking about this. If King is reverted to the bench, I might trade him as well. I still think I'd get Tarpany, to be honest. For all the rib issues, I think the way that he was going beforehand, even if his performances get scaled back by 20%, you're going from 85 down by 20%. So if I do some maths like real quickly in my head, you're looking at about a 17-point drop off. You're still looking at like 68. 68, did I get that right? Yes, you're still looking at a 68 average, which I think is still better than Tino or Haas. So I would still get Tarpany out of those three. Thoughts on Campbell as a real pod? Okay, so sorry, this is Jaden Campbell, not Campbell Graham. Yeah, I didn't really think about Jaden Campbell at all, did I? How has he done recently? I mean, he only scored 31 last week. I'm looking at his scores: 31, 39, 60, 33, 43, 51, 66, 71. I mean, there's some okay scores in there. But again, I just don't... Like Brimson, I know he's got a bit more pedigree, if that makes sense. Like he's had a couple of... he's had a season where he's done really well to finish. I think I trust him more. I think he's got slightly higher work rate too. So I'd probably still lean Brimson over Jaden Campbell. Not too keen on Campbell. I think Campbell has the same issue as Savage, where I think he's only listed at fullback, which again I think kind of limits you. Yeah, he's only a fullback. So look, it could be a good week for him for sure. But I think for the rest of the season, I still prefer some other fullback guns. Okay, well, James, to be honest, I just finished reading the rest of your question. So you said you don't have any money to move to anyone more expensive, and you need a centre wing fullback. At 408k, to be honest, he probably is one of the better options. I wonder if Connor Tracy is cheaper than that. Connor Tracy is 420k, so you maybe can think about Connor Tracy if you're looking for a centre wing, just throwing it out there as well. I probably would maybe slightly prefer that because he's on the wing, although he's outside Ramian, who's traditionally glue hands. But good draw, better team than the Titans as well. So maybe one to think about. But look, if generally Campbell's like one of your only options, then I think I don't hate it because the draw is very good. Harry Grant for Cook. No, I don't think I'd be taking out Harry Grant. I know he's been very underwhelming, but still, like, to me that feels... Look, I don't think it's sideways based on recent form. Like, it's probably an upgrade. But to me, I just think you've probably got other better places that you can make an upgrade, in my opinion. That's my feeling. Because I think, look, it's Harry Grant. He's still a gun. Yeah, so I don't think I'd be doing that move personally, but I do think Cook is the better option. Could you run Blake Brayley for the run home, or do you need another hooker? No, look, Blake Brayley is fine to run home. Like, the hooker position, you can actually... People who haven't gone back to Grant have probably done better out of it because, they would have gone to maybe like a Cook. Maybe they're stuck with a Reece Robson. They've done very well. They've even done better than him. Even Blake Brayley, he's got a 5-round average of 62, 3-round of 66. So he's pretty much matching Harry Grant. Scored 94 last week too. So for me, Blake Brayley is fine to run as your hooker for the run home. Tracy's in the centers this week. Oh, is he? Okay, let me double check that. I was thinking of last week. Or was he ruled out last week? Because I know he had that concussion. You're right. He is in the centers this week. So you've got Lockie Miller on the wing and Mulatalo. So yeah, you would have Lockie Miller on the right wing, Connor Tracy on the left center to take Talakai's spot. Sure. Look, I don't think that changes too much. I think he's still a good option. He's a very busy kind of player, so he's generally got okay work rate too. So yeah, maybe another pod to consider. I know Broomer, Matthew, he's talked up Tracy in the past as well, so I wonder if he'll go for him because he was also looking for a pod this week. Sam says, yeah, Brimson is definitely more reliable. Campbell, more of a hog. Feel like he may go huge against the easy run coming up. couldn't afford Brimson. Look, fair enough. If you couldn't afford Brimson, then yeah, Campbell is a bit of a hog. I remember distinctly some of those games where Fafita, as an owner, I was saying, pass the ball, but he doesn't do it. So yeah, look, for Supercoach, you like those guys who are greedy and run themselves. So I don't hate it. Don't hate it. Just personally, I wouldn't go there. But I'm also like, if I look at my team, I'm not really moving off Teddy, Drinkwater, Munster, or Dylan Brown. So I'm also just not thinking about him that much as well. I'll see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, we might wrap it up there. Well, we're already getting close to about 50 minutes, so I think we made decent stream out of it. Feels like a week where you haven't really got too much left. Just found this question from Knives and Forks. Is saying, am I insane for trading Karaz over Taylor May? If May comes back, you prefer him? Yeah, look, I think that's fine based on that logic. And I think if Taylor May does come back next week against the Warriors, you'd be very happy to have that. Stefano says, hey man, I've got 2 trades left. Still got Cleary in your team. Would you trade Olaquatu and go to Cam Murray? And then trade Cleary to Dearden or Hughes? I actually would prefer Tom Dearden. I think he's been pretty impressive. I kind of regret actually not going with him and using that money to upgrade elsewhere. And I said I just went with the safe move of like Cherry Evans. So I probably actually would prefer going with Dearden. And I don't mind trading Olaquatu out to Cam Murray. I'm now even thinking about doing the same thing myself, Stefanos. So yeah, I'll have a think about that too. I don't hate it because Cam Murray, the way that he's going, I mean, he's probably going to, you'd say he's going to comfortably outscore Olaquatu. For me, I'm just trying to think, with 1 trade left, can I do something a bit wacky? I'm kind of in a position where I'm not really competing for like any head-to-head cash leagues or anything. I'm not really in those. I'm not really in a position where I'm like, I don't know how close I am to top 1,000. So I kind of just feel like I'm in a weird middle ground. So I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I could do something sensible like at Cam Murray. You know, scored 89 last week, as he always does. Or I could just take a pod, just do like Taylor May for like Ramian, Connor Tracy, Brimson, like, I don't know, one of these wacky guys. Maybe I could even go back to Lomax this week. Actually, can I afford Grant Anderson out for Lomax? My boy Lomax. Oh, please tell me, can I do it? Filter, Dragons. Oh, okay, so I can't do Grant Anderson for Lomax. I can do Taylor May to Lomax. Okay, look, that's an option. Goal kicking Lomax against the Titans. Then he's got the Tigers. You know what? Let's quickly see his ownership. Shout out to the SC Playbook as well for their great stat HQ. Could he be the guy? I don't know. What? He's 34% owner of the top 100. He's not a pod at all. What's going on here? I thought he would have been like 2%. He's so highly owned. Oh. Well, he's not really a pod, but I mean, 34% is not super high. Still. Anyway. We'll have a think about it. I could just do nothing as well. Bailey says, I can't do Lola to Lane. Would you trade out Kikau or Olaquatu for Lane? Probably Olaquatu, to be honest. I think with Kikau having Warriors next week, I kind of just think that's a good matchup for him. Sam says, love your work, sitting on 199 and love listening to you. Well, Sam, thank you very much. Really do appreciate that. That's very, very kind of you. And I'm happy when people who watch and take my advice are actually doing very well. I'd rather that others are doing well than me, to be honest. It's nice. So yeah, thank you. Playing 4 players from the Roosters and Eels too much? No, not necessarily. They've got Tigers and Bulldogs, so good matchup, so nothing wrong there. Lomax has been a painful watch recently. To be fair, ever since I sold Lomax a few weeks ago, I haven't really looked at many Dragons games, so I'm probably just not aware of how the performances have been. So yeah, I'll have a think about it. Tailor-made to Tracy, Josh is saying, yeah, that's an option. I'm feeling potty. I've got 200k as well. I kind of want to use all of it. I don't want to have like 150k sitting in the bank not being used. We'll see. All right, we'll take this one last question from Isaac and we'll probably wrap up the stream there. So he's saying 4 reserves out of Coruscant, Haas, Kikau, Cherry Evans, Drinkwater and Mitchell. Well, Cherry Evans is off. Drinkwater, Latrell 100%. So them two. I would play Coruscant. He's actually been doing very well recently. And then between Haas and Kickow, probably paying Haas just for the safety, I think. So yeah, I think Coruscant, Haas, Drinkwater, and the Troll, Isaac. Okay, sorry. There's a couple of other questions coming in, so I'll have a quick look at that. Tyler saying play Hughes this week. Yeah, if you've got Jerome Hughes, I think you're definitely playing him. James saying, would you do Lomax, Ronaldo, or Ramian for Talakai? Only got one trade left. Ooh, okay. So you have to go one of Lomax, Ronaldo, or Ramian. Honestly, Mulatalo, I've owned him for a while now. He's been very disappointing the last few weeks. He did get butchered a few tries, or a few attacking stats, I think last week or the week before. He's so cheap. He's 410k now. I'd probably rule out Lomax, James, just because I'd probably think, Sharks are a better team, so I'd probably just lean that way. So I think it becomes between Ronaldo and Ramian. So for me, it's a real toss of the coin. I'd probably say Ramian, but I'm not sold because I know Mulatalo's done poor, but maybe it's because I'm biased, but the wingers always seem to do well. Like Ramian's 5-round average is 61, so he's not been amazing. Whereas if you look at Mulatalo, whose 5-round average is 41. Okay, it's pretty bad to be honest. Although that wasn't the tough run coming up. That was in the tough games. I mean, look, Mulatalo's playing 57 without a try last week. It's not bad. Manly, Bulldogs, and Knights. I think I'd go Ramian. We talked about the greedy guy, the guy who doesn't pass, who just runs himself. So I think I'd go Ramian. He's more of a pod as well from memory. All right, last question, I promise. Dearden or Hughes, last question. Stefanos, I think I answered that earlier. So I think I actually prefer Dearden this week, for sure. And he's been pretty solid. I think, let me just quickly look at his 5-round average for you. 5-round average of 60. So yeah, pretty good. 50 last week against the Roosters in a tough matchup. Before that, he went 72, 72, and 79. I think Warriors is a good game. So look, I think he's a solid option. So yeah, and he's a lot cheaper too. So yeah, probably we would just go Dearden. Alright guys, we'll end the stream there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We managed to clock up 53 minutes, which I'm actually pretty happy with. I thought we would go much shorter than that. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in and all your questions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I was trying to be a bit more Q&A because I know that there's not as many topics to discuss. So hopefully guys, if you did enjoy it, do please give the stream a like. It really does help me. So 2 seconds, click the like button. Leave your comments, all good for the algorithm. I'll try to confirm whatever trade or non-trade that I do this week on Twitter. I can't guarantee a lockout stream on Thursday because I'm working. So I'll see, but no promises there. All right, we'll end the stream there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a good rest of your evening and see you all in the next one.